Um, hello, hello. I'm reluctantly making this video because I don't like it when things are commented just for the sake of it. Um, if you're wondering why the camera footage looks worse, or if there's any issues with my camera, it's because I've been having issues with this computer. Um, I'm not really too sure, but long story short, computers aren't really made to last long. So regardless if you spend $1,000, the thing is going to turn to shit if you don't completely pay for every single co-pilot and or update every single aspect of your computer, regardless if you want to or not. But that's neither here nor there. Today, like everybody else, I will be talking about Charlie Kirk. I am not giving my opinion because I think people want to hear it. I'm not giving my opinion because of the same reason why I think everybody else is doing it, which we will get into. It boggles my mind how hollow everybody's emotional reactions and political stances seem to be to me. Because Charlie Kirk's death is nothing more than another fad and another reason for the media to try to make you believe whatever it wants you to believe. And that's probably why some people think it's a conspiracy. I don't think his death was a conspiracy. I think that, like many places in America, and like things have been lately, we live in a violent country. And we have had violence. And we have tolerated violence for a very long time. I think that it is a tragedy and it should not happen. But I find it strange when I pull up my computer and I see every single person, political, not political, celebrity, not celebrity, newscaster, not newscaster, or anchorman, or whatever the fuck they're called, politician, non-politician, your average Joe, your CEOs, your fucking everybody has to have an opinion on this, to the point to where it's just like, well, I didn't want to say anything. I didn't want to say anything because everybody was already fucking hammering their message, which was, this is a tragic death and this should have never happened. I got a couple of opinions about that. This is a tragic death and it should not have happened. My question is, why do you care? Because that's the underlying problem I have with our society. We can go back a few months and we can talk about Ozzy Osbourne's death. It was about a month or two ago. Most people didn't really care about Ozzy Osbourne's death. I don't think so, at least. It was another trend for people to post a picture and a sad statement and something about Ozzy Osbourne, even though they may have just heard one or two of his songs, and they may have been somebody a long time ago who once condemned his music for being satanic. Because a lot of people viewed Ozzy Osbourne as the epitome of Satan. But because it's popular, all of a sudden everybody's okay with him. Because he wasn't sick and he wasn't public about it, everybody didn't care. And nobody really cared what his image looked like. And while it was a great send-off and it was an inspiring message, it's still hollow. And I try not to comment on things for the sake of it being public, because I feel like everybody and their mother is saying something because they feel like they have to. And it gets to a point to where even my stubborn ass who doesn't want to talk about it ends up making a fucking random ass YouTube video about it. We can go back to 9/11. And I think very, very hard about this because we have had a lot of people within my lifetime trying to tell me that I should never forget and that I should sit and think and reflect on 9/11. Hell, at my current job, where we don't fucking do anything that stressful, and we're not first responders, and we're not fucking EMS or firefighters. Another hollow email from everywhere that I've ever been about never forgetting what happened in 9/11. But there's a history to that. The 9/11 responders had to fight with the U.S. government almost and argue with them over and over again with Jon Stewart about getting medical coverage for the diseases that they had during that response. Everybody and their mothers brought up 9/11, has brought up 9/11 my entire adult and childhood life as for as long as I can remember, as some sort of political statement, as some sort of guilt, as some sort of public thing, and a popular post, and something that you can kind of get likes for, and this parasympathetic reaction that is hollow and public for the sake of public. And it's that mentality, which is why I don't really make YouTube videos. I stopped doing it because I realized that in order to actually do what I needed to do to be famous, I would kind of have to whore out my personality like that. But it's so frustrating for me to see people do that so easily and so constantly, but not actually give a fuck about anything. Jesse Wells made a song about it. Tom McDonald made a song about it. And over the course of 2 or 3 days, everybody has said something about it. And nobody actually gives a fuck. Especially the conservatives. I want to make this very fucking clear. The conservatives only care about Charlie's fucking death. Not because he was just a family man, but because he was one of them. And every single person who happens to be a Republican who is talking about this over and over again, I promise you, is doing this for one of two reasons. They either want to get those likes and comments and that political and ideological reassurance from others that they're saying the correct things, or they want to display an outrage against their ideological opponents without any actual evidence that this was from their ideological opponents, by the way. Or they want to encourage violence against their ideological opponents by making this about their ideological opponents. Because now we have conservatives in a time where we're pretending that this is a message about unity and not caring so much about politics at the same fucking time. I am inundated with messages, with videos of people saying how the liberals are next and that this is war and that we drew first blood and blah, blah, blah. Because that's the proper message to have at political violence. You know, the Republicans aren't going to play around anymore, and the Democrats have gotten out of hand. This is exactly what I knew was going to happen because I had already seen the warning signs of it. I saw Jesse Waters talk about this. I've seen President Trump's comment that this was 100% because all the liberals kept calling him a Nazi and they call me a Nazi and blah, 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 and all this rhetoric that we have about each other, blah, blah, blah. They called me names. And now we got shot because people believe those names. What a bullshit fucking message. What a bullshit fucking message. What a bullshit fucking reason to care about somebody's death. To use it for your political purposes. Because that's all these people have ever done. That's all they've ever done. We've had 2 Democratic politicians shot earlier this year. I have to keep looking their names up because I haven't heard their names nearly as much as I've heard Charlie Kirk's. I've never watched a single Charlie Kirk video in my life, and now I hear his name fucking everywhere. We've had 2 Democratic politicians shot and killed in Minnesota by a conservative extremist, and nobody publicly condemned it nearly as hard as they've condemned this, nor do people even care. And a lot of these people that condemned Charlie Kirk's death encouraged the death of Democratic politicians. It's hollow, lifeless, and selective for an intentional purpose. And the intentional purpose is, I want my ideological narrative to be preceded. So I am going to demand outrage at this person's death who shares my ideology. And if you do not share outrage or the same level of condemnation of the ideology that I say caused his death, then clearly you're against me. And that's all this is. It's a platform for more violence. And before I get all these fucking comments about how I'm using this for my own ideological purposes, first off, you're no fucking better than me. And secondly, how many people get hurt in this country because we have to politicize everything? And at what point are the people who complain about it going to realize that they are also taking part in this politicization? If you really want to have a message of unity, stop blaming your opponents. Every single person who was smart was able to separate the crazed conservative who shot the 2 Democratic I don't even know if they were senators, the 2 Democrats in Minnesota, from most conservatives. But now most conservatives are not capable of separating most liberals and most Democrats and most socialists and communists and anybody who isn't a Republican, even if they don't agree with each other and they actually don't like each other. Most people are incapable of separating those people from this shooter, even though nobody has had an opportunity to ask what this shooter's ideology is. Because it's a fucking game. That's all it is. It's another death that has turned into another game and another feigned attempt at pretending to care about life and pretending to have empathy. I don't make this video because I want to use Charlie Kirk's death to get views. Unlike most people. Unlike most people, both liberal and conservative. I say this because I feel like it's something that's not said enough. Is that his death is being displayed and used. Which, if you really cared about his memory as much as you think, you would know better. If you actually cared about the death of an innocent father, you wouldn't be so selective with which fathers died. And you would actually be sympathetic to when it happens to the other side. I have my sympathies for Charlie Kirk's family. I think that his death is a little ironic, but that doesn't mean I think it's justified. Because it is a little ironic. And that's something that I'm not allowed to talk about because of the conservative cancel culture that we have in this country, that we've always had in this country. The same people that said that you can't listen to certain music because it's satanic, the same people that want to burn books, the same people that want to say you can't teach certain things in the classroom because it offends me, while calling you woke and cancel culture for pointing out when they say something racist or anything along those lines, or say that or even if you point out how sketchy it is, not that they just disagree with transgenders, but that they sometimes just outright hate them. Which is another funny thing, you know. It's funny how how school shootings suddenly matter when a transgender does it. Uh, it didn't matter before. Didn't matter when it happened in Commerce, and the father uh, still let his kid have a gun in spite of the fact that he made multiple threats in different schools, and there was no real warning, and it was one of the most easily preventable school shootings in existence, and was overcome by a simple transfer in schools. All of these SROs that we fucking have, and all of this intelligence, and all this spying that we have in our country, the Patriot Act, the flock cameras, everything that is tracked, the fucking Google and Apple and Amazon using cookies on their websites to know where you are, constantly asking you for your location, constantly giving you advertisements about things that you just so happen to talk about. And we can't keep track of one motherfucker that threatened one school and then moved to another school nearby. And nobody cared about that kid's political ideology because it didn't matter. But when it's the ideology of your opponent, all of a sudden it matters. When it's somebody who fits the mold, a convenient mold of violence, it doesn't matter. That's why you've heard throughout the last 20 years, every single Muslim that has done something wrong, every single Muslim that was actually a terrorist, or an ISIS sympathizer, or might have been an ISIS sympathizer, or maybe possibly probably is related to somebody whose third cousin has a nephew whose brother's cousin's wife knows somebody in ISIS. But you didn't hear about the Sikhs and how they were attacked by people who hate Muslims so much they couldn't tell the difference. You didn't hear about that. You don't hear about these other things because they're not politically convenient. You either care about violence and care about political violence, or you don't. And I'm saying, I right now, I am calling bullshit. I call bullshit on these motherfuckers. On these people who post on Facebook constantly. Never forget Charlie Kirk. This is violence. This is unacceptable. The liberals did it, and we have to get back at them. That's what I see. Violence is wrong, so we have to be violent, is what I see. Pointing fingers is wrong, and they pointed the fingers so hard that it caused this man's death. It's their fault, is what I see. Childish, unintelligent, unproductive, and surface level. I would rather it be more prejudice if it wasn't so fucking surface level lies and bullshit. Like, I would rather just for it to be a little bit more transparent. Half the people saying that you shouldn't be laughing at this guy's death. Most people aren't. Have you fucking seen every fucking person and their mother? Barack Obama fucking commented on this bitch. And he hasn't been president for 10 fucking years. And nobody gives a fuck what Obama thinks anymore because he hasn't been president for 10 fucking years. Fucking celebrities commenting on this motherfucker. Because, like, I want to fucking know what Kim Kardashian has to say about this. Fucking, what is this fucking world that we live in where we give that much of a fuck about what people think, but we don't actually care about the implications of what we think? This it's unintelligent. And it's not mentally stimulating enough for me to engage with people about it. Because it's fucking retarded. But I still do think his death is a little ironic. And we can't talk about it because of this cancel culture. And we can't talk about it because of this overt hostility that we can't even acknowledge. Because blood was drawn on their side, we can't acknowledge their hostility. Is what I see. And we can't acknowledge the irony. Everybody tells me how he stood for the rights of every single person. I've actually bothered to watch a couple of his clips. He would have called me a heathen. He would have maybe supported my right to say the wrong thing, is what he would have told me. That's the most support he would have given me. And that's probably the hardest he would have fought for me. And the most ironic quote that he said: "For us to have guns, some people are going to have to die." Which is not a thing I even disagree with, by the way. I don't disagree with that. Freedom does entail the risk of people dying for that freedom. I just think it's weird how freedom is only a conversation when it comes to guns. Is all it is. I think it's weird how we do have cameras that watch everybody, and spying is legal from our corporations, but we can't talk about freedom unless it's with guns, and we can't talk about gun regulation unless if a transgender kid uses a gun. It's transparent. Not that smart. There's no arguing or dissecting that makes it politically interesting to engage. Instead, it's just navigating the gaslighting. Just like everything else in this country. All of those politicians with the 9/11 responders and how hard they fucking cared until they asked for a paycheck. And then they said, "Oh, it's not a government issue, it's a New York issue. Oh, we don't think all these people that have cancer were caused by the carcinogenic chemicals that they were exposed to, saving people's lives. It's a coincidence." And then when 9/11 came around, they said, "Never forget 9/11. You should vote for me because I'm a patriot and I support the 9/11 heroes." But not when it comes to an actual fucking vote. This is why, people like me have such a hard fucking time claiming and clinging to patriotism. Because that in and of itself is just a tool to get somebody elected. That in and of itself is just an image that is projected. No different than when I buy these fucking books that half the time I don't even fucking read because it makes me feel smarter to have them. I'm not that fucking smart. I just say smart shit. Or I say shit that sounds smart. Or I think about something for a couple more seconds than people are willing to. There are people smarter than me who are capable of producing so many more answers and solutions to problems in this country than myself. Yet everybody thinks I'm some sort of genius because I project that. And it's that projection that matters more than the results. It's that projection that matters more than actual dissection. And I think this is why I just embrace nihilism a little bit harder. And I try to remind myself that ultimately none of this matters. And I try to remind myself that at the end of the day, we're just monkeys in suits fighting over bananas. And that's all we are. And to be honest with you, that gives me comfort. Religious people get confused about that. They say, well, what shouldn't God give you comfort? I'm like, no, it doesn't. Because most people who claim to have this morality and this godfulness and this wisdom from religion can't even dissect their own opinions or challenge themselves on a spiritual level. It's hollow. It's another hollow fucking thing. Stop being so fucking surface level and stop fucking saying shit just because everybody else is saying it. It's boring. It's unintelligent. It's you just being manipulated by the people who just echo the same message. Echoing something does not make it true. I don't know. I don't know what else to say about it. My heart goes out to Charlie Kirk's family. It does not go out to anybody who claims to be grieving over it for political purposes, and it does not go out to anybody who wants to be outraged selectively about it. I don't feel sorry for you, and I'm not gonna offer you a helping hand or a hand on your shoulder until you actually show earnest regret and reflection on this person's death. Until then, fuck you.